Hello YouTubes, this is Grimweird coming back at you with more Enigmatica 2 expert playthrough action for Minecraft 1.12.2. So since the end of the last episode, I'm reaching the point where it's like I'm starting to get a bit lost here. I did play a couple weeks of this mod pack before starting the playthrough and taping it on a fresh world. So, I was sort of familiar how to sort of get going. As I've said a number of times, I'm not really an expert on modded Minecraft. I'm an old school vanilla guy, and I'm doing this to force myself to learn a bunch of new stuff and play a bunch of new mods. But one of the things I wanted to do was, since I wasn't exactly sure where to go next, I thought I would just pick some stuff that I hadn't played with yet and play with it, just to get a feel for it. So I opened up the crusher and the biofuel and the biogenerator and the heat generator and the electrolytic separator and the gas burning generator for Mekanism in between last episode and this. And so here we have the heat generator. So this thing, what can I say about this thing? It is not producing a lot of power. So I wanted to try the passive mode. So in this passive mode, it's got lava on 5 sides of it, and you can pull the power out of this side. It will also burn lava. Without burning lava, the passive amount of energy coming off of this is pretty anemic. So I don't really see myself using this for anything. If I had some sort of huge lava source and could pump lava into it, I might. One thing about this mod pack is that some of the generators' yields and efficiencies have been tweaked. So I don't know if that's standardly the case with that machine. But the bottom line is I'd be better off, expanding my plant here or going with a Mekanism, advanced solar generators or wind generators than playing around with that heat generator much more. So I did also make this biogenerator one, and I turned a bunch of potatoes into biofuel. And if I let this bad boy run again, now it actually is generating a decent amount. It's producing 120 RF per tick. That would be useful. I would take that. However, it also just does burn through the biofuel pretty quickly. So I would need to figure out how to set up an automated self-sustaining source of that biofuel. I do have tons and tons of zombie flesh and various plants that I could feed in for a while, but I would need something sustainable for the generation of biofuel. So the other thing I wanted to play around with, I made the electrolytic separator, which basically turns water into oxygen and hydrogen. I played around with the tanks here. So this tank has 57,000 units of oxygen in it. Played around with how to figure out what sides do what and how to make them do what. Mekanism is a bit confusing for me on how to control the sides and inputs and outputs. Some things, like this elite gas tank, have the wonderful, beautiful, up, down, front, 2 sides, and back, things for configuring what's going where. But then other things like this electrolytic separator, it's not 100% clear. The quest book says that, the left tank goes out the left side, and the right tank goes out the right side. And so I sort of was able to get that working. If I'm facing it here, I've got the oxygen from the right tank going to that. I've got the hydrogen from the left tank going over to the gas burning generator. So let's see, I can turn this on, I think. Yeah, and turn this on. So you can see it's filling up with hydrogen. That's good. And so now it is... Do I have it on? So now it's producing 6,000 RF per tick, which is fabulous. The only problem is that this is using about 3.84 kilo per RF per tick, and when these things reach a balance of input versus output, really, because of the transfer of the power cells, they're about even in power generation and power consumption. And then I lose 10% maybe from the power cell from just beaming power, around. And so this is not really going to be an option for me. I would need to further do this to then turn the hydrogen into ethylene and go that route to make this an actual good efficient source. I was able to play around with the Aqueous Accumulator. At first I didn't realize that it went faster. It works without any water around it. And because it works without any water around it, I assume that's just how it did, that it condensed water out of the air. But it was not anywhere near fast enough to keep up with the electrolytic separator. So that made me play around with a kitchen sink for a while, that I couldn't get the sink from cooking with blockheads. I couldn't figure out how to get the water out of it. It said it had a gazillion water in it, but I couldn't figure out how to get water out of it. It didn't seem to want to pull into here. It didn't want to seem to pump out of there. So I got more work to do to figure out how that beast works, because it has no GUI. And maybe I need a special tube that's a pull tube to transport stuff out. But anyway, I did find out that through some Googling that the Aqueous Accumulator goes much, much faster if you surround it with water. So I surrounded it with water, and sure enough, it pumps out tons of water now, and it could keep up. And I don't need this tube. I can have this right against the bottom of this, and that seemed to work. But I also, while I was trying to figure out how to get stuff out of this sink from cooking with blockheads, I did make some of the Elite mechanical pipes. And so here I am trying those out and seeing how those work. I was also playing with some transfer nodes from extra utilities and transfer pipe just to see how those work. Was playing with the configurator, trying to remember how to make that work. In this mod pack, I think the default is when you have it in your hand, then Shift M will change it to its different configurations. But it doesn't always work on all the machines here. Like I said, some of the machines like this one, you can see that it'll mount when you mouse over, it will give you stuff to do, and it will tell you what's going on for configuring items here in this case. Or since we are working with gases here, you can see it's now working with gases, and we can right click on it and do some stuff. But then other machines like the electrolytic separator and the gas burning generator, it just doesn't really seem to do anything. The configurator doesn't really seem to do anything other than toggle redstone mode. So there's some inconsistencies in Mekanism, and inconsistencies and unclarities, lack of clarity on how to get stuff in and out of them sometimes. I still really enjoy the mod pack. I just wish the GUIs were more consistent across the various machines. And I liked this setup. The only thing is that I would need to make it really effective, I need to add more machines to this and go to an ethylene gas burning setup. So I might play around with that just to say I've done it and just to figure out how to do it. But that's going to sort of go on in the background. And I might look into, how hard or easy it is to make a easy automated source of, some sort of biofuel to feed this thing. Because this thing does put out a crap ton of power. So if you can keep it fed, that would be a nice little mid-game source of power for us. So that's sort of what I've been playing around with between episodes. I don't think my monitors have moved in a while, so I probably need to go move my digital miner. Although I might give that a break just because I feel like I'm swimming in ore right now. So I might just give that a break while I catch my breath here. So yeah, as for what to do next, probably what I'll work on here, and I probably won't do it on camera, as today I probably will work on making some of the applied energistics wireless stuff. So I will probably go ahead and make like a wireless terminal and a security terminal and a biometric card to prove that I should have the ability to use the applied energistics network that I have built. Biometric card. Yeah, so I'm going to play around with that stuff probably today and get that running. As I said before, I've got just tons of stuff in here now. If we take a look at how we're doing with our new applied energistics thing, we have filled up our 11th with types, and we are about halfway through our 12th. So we're still doing plenty good on stuff. Definitely the digital miner made an impact because we put a ton of stuff in there. Thousands and thousands of ores and redstones and stones and oh my. So yeah, I'm still sort of trying to figure out where I want to go here. I just might do more tinkering around with some of this junk. As a reward for environment tech, I got 4 lithiumite solar cells. So I want to try and like figure out if I can hook them up and use them now, even though I'm not probably getting into things like void miners and etc. Those are sitting in a box or sitting in my applied energistics ME network now. So I might try to figure out how I can wire those up and see if they're any good. I might play around a bit more with Mekanism. Let's see. If we go at mech. I haven't played with any of these bins. I did like the gas canisters I made. Those were cool. But I might... there's all sorts of stuff that isn't included in the tree for advancements and loot chests, which might, of course, be very useful. Various factories and chemical infusers and oxidizers and all sorts of crazy stuff. So there's a bunch of things here that I have not used, and I think some of this can lead to getting better than doubling of ore, so you can get like tripling and quadrupling and etc. So I might just keep investigating Mekanism for a bit and try to figure out what else I want to make from this coil that may or may not be on the quest book tree. One of the things that was helpful was I was trying to figure out how to move gases and fluids around, and at least in Mekanism, what ended up helping was, because when I thought mechanical, I was thinking items, but when I mouse over the mechanical pipes, I see that the capacity is in millibuckets per tick, and so that's obviously for fluids. So I made some of those. I was trying to figure out what to do with the gases, and I found the tanks and made some of those. But yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff here in Mekanism that isn't part of the tree that looks like it sort of goes above and beyond. And so I might sort of take a look at that and see what some of this stuff does. In particular, I noticed that a lot of people continue on with this whole separator and take the hydrogen into some sort of PRC or something and turn it into ethylene and then burn the ethylene as fuel. And then instead of just sort of breaking even with these two machines, that extra step of turning things into ethylene then makes it a viable power source for fueling extra power. But another thing I might do is I really sort of dig the wind generators for Mekanism. Currently I have those just sort of sitting up here, at Y, 80 something. I know they'll work better if I take them up like another 100 or so. Take them up above maybe 192-ish. So the other thing I could do is just sort of build a tower, take that up into the stratosphere, and maybe even build 6 more of them and get some extra power, mid-game power from that. Just in that shooting star. But anyway, I might set up those litherite solar panels from Environmental Tech up here and see what they do. That's the kinds of things I'll be sort of working on, but a lot of that playing around is going to be off camera. And if I find things that I like or learn things that I want to make sure and tell future me when I watch this back 2 or 3 years from now, when I'm thinking about launching into another new and exciting mod pack, I'll remember to have those lessons in my pocket as opposed to having to relearn them. So yeah, I'm going to make some wireless stuff and fiddle around today, and I will come back after a jump cut and we will show you what we figure out and what we accomplished for the day and any lessons that we learned. See you in a bit. Okay, a bit of an update. Things are still going slowly. I'm still figuring things out, but I am learning things. I figured out how to get water out of the sink from cooking for blockheads. I made some thermal dynamics fluid duct, and I put a servo on that fluid duct to provide some suction, and I can now get water coming up into the bottom of a Mekanism Electrolytic Separator and Pressurized Reaction Chamber, or PRC. And I can get hydrogen to go out of the electrolytic separator into the PRC. And I can get power into both of these bad boys to make them run. Again, just deciphering what sides and how this all works is a bit mystical. So this guy basically has no guidance other than it just on the right it'll output oxygen, and on the left it'll output hydrogen. This guy has this stuff, but I'm sitting here looking at this going, what the heck? And then I realized that energy has a different tab, items have a different tab, so this is the items config, fluids have a different tab, and gases have a different tab. So what I'm working on now is trying to get the gas burning generator to accept ethylene from the PRC, the Pressurized Reaction Chamber. And then I think I will be golden. I'll need to figure out, so I'll have to have the crusher feeding biofuel into the PRC in some manner. And then I'll have to figure out how to generate massive amounts of stuff, whether it's a crop or what have you, to put into the crusher and get that automated. But I'm learning things and we're moving things along. I had the damnedest time figuring out how to get water out of the damn sink, and I couldn't see anywhere where anybody really showed it, because usually the sink was buried. And then finally I was watching some playthrough by some other guy and just happened to, off in the distance see a sink with that very distinctive white and red thing on there. And I vaguely remembered that was called a servo. So I looked it up and it's like, oh hey, it will suck things out into fluid ducts. And sure enough, that works. So I don't know if it's going to be fast enough to keep up with both of these machines. It seemed pretty fast. I haven't got them running consistently enough to really know for sure yet. But yeah, I'm going to go back to work on this. I am building up sort of a working stock of biofuel just to figure out how this gets working. And then if I can get all the gases and fluids and items working good with this, and get the gas burning generator actually generating stuff, and if I see that it's generating enough energy that I like it, I will then work on figuring out how to automate feeding some sort of organic material into a crusher and then feeding that into the PRC. So anyway, bear with me. I'm learning here. It's been lots of reading of wikis and digging through YouTube trying to figure out how to make all this work. But I think I'm making progress. And I will be back shortly to tell you how far I got. Alright, I think I have made more progress. So I am now generating hydrogen. Water is coming up, so you can see the water dip down and go back up, and that goes back up. I'm putting the oxygen into this gas tank over here. I'll probably just dump it, but until I figure out what to do with the oxygen. But I got the oxygen going someplace good. I got water coming in from the sink using the thermal foundation servo to suck it out, and then using the thermodynamics servo for sucking it out, and the thermodynamics fluid duct to deliver it. So it's keeping up with water with the electrolytic separator and the pressurized reaction chamber. So that's good. I ran out of fuel again here. But I was creating ethylene, and the next step I needed to do was to get the ethylene into the gas burning generator. And I'm doing that, and the gas burning generator is burning it, and it is outputting 5.9 KRF per tick. So, and that's going into the cube. So all of this seems to be working right at the moment. So now I just got to figure out and the thing I was missing there, I had gone into, I had gone into here and gone to the gases tab, and I had this on, I think, gas or something. I'm not exactly sure. But basically if I put my configurator, here I can open my talk. If I put my configurator into configurate gases and then turning it gas dark red didn't do anything, but configurate gases output dark blue, and then clicking on the side that was facing where the gas burning generator would be, somehow turned on getting ethylene into the gas burning generator. So that was the key thing, was that getting the configurator out using Shift M to take it to configure gases, and then right clicking on the side I wanted the ethylene to come out of, and turning it dark blue for output. And then when I replaced the gas burning generator, it took it in. So what I'm probably going to do now is see if I can change the configurator to rotate, tap on this, and put the power cell behind it, just for cleaning things up and just to make sure I could do it. Get my power cell back out. I think I'd rather have the power cell on this side. Yeah, okay, so that's working. It's already sucked out all the ethylene, so to continue my experiments, I need more biofuel, which means I need to suck out more rotten flesh. It's just what I'm using at the moment. Oops, do not use the configurator. So we'll get more of that going. So what I'm working on now is, this is all starting to come together nice and compact, not a lot of stuff. I'll run power in a different way, and of course I'll set this up in a different location. But I'm starting to like the looks of all of this. Oh, and I do have the substrate, which is made from this as another output. I got that auto ejecting up into a chest. I'm running out of sides on the PRC, so I will probably have to come out the front maybe to input biofuels. Um, this is where it starts getting me interested in making Ender-IO cables where you can run different types of cables, power and fluid and etc. through the same block. So that instead of just having the water coming in here, I can have water and items moving through that space below it. But whatever, we'll try and do this without using Ender-IO for now. So yeah, now I'm going to do some research on how to generate biofuel. During looking around for this, I saw people set up automated sugarcane farms using pistons. I'm familiar with those. Those are sort of an old ghetto trick. An old, not ghetto, an old vanilla trick for getting lots of paper. So I'm sort of familiar with using pistons to get sugar. That was all fairly simple. But then I also see real experts doing things with, what are they called, cloches, and doing, things with forestry farmers or farming things from different mods. So I sort of want to look around and figure out what I can automate that will feed into the crusher to be crushed into biofuel and then feed into the PRC. So that's sort of my next chore here. Yeah. And I will be right back once I've spent an hour trying to figure things out. And just one further note, I have got 5 speed and 8 energy, 5 out of 8 speed and 8 out of 8 energy here to try and keep my efficiency good without being too slow. And I got 5 out of 8 speed and 8 out of 8 energy here to keep things sort of moving good there without costing myself too much efficiency by going to maximum speed. And if I throw more fuel in, it seems like my electrolytic separator is keeping up just fine with my PRC. And my PRC can keep up with the gas burning generator, maybe. I might need one more speed or two to keep up with this. I'm going to need tons of biofuel, so I need to figure out a way to. So I'm obviously going to have to speed up the crusher. I'm obviously going to have to generate lots of stuff. But this is coming along. When I had this cooking a moment before I ran out of biofuel again, this was cooking like, I don't know, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 RF per tick. I just got to make sure that I might take one more or two more speed upgrades to have the PRC keep up with this. And then I just need to keep up with biofuel production with the PRC. And we should be in business. And this should generate some nice power for us. We shall see. I got to take the net effect because I'm going to be spending power on the crusher, spending power on the electrolytic separator, spending power on the PRC, and I got to make sure that I'm generating enough power that I'm coming out ahead by at least 1,000 RF or better after all of the 3 machines inputting into it. Before I'll consider this really worth it. All right, anyway, I'm back to looking at biofuel production, and I'll come back and show you what I found out in a moment. And I am back once again, and I've been playing a bit more with this setup. I'm happy with this as how this is coming along, and I would be happy if I could set up some sort of like biofuel and get that coming into the system. But I'm not super happy with how much ramp up in power I'm getting from the gas burning generator burning ethylene, which surprised me because I had read somewhere that people like burning ethylene for power, sort of in the middle of Enigmatica 2 Expert Edition. So I thought, okay, I'm obviously missing something here. And yes, I totally was missing something. They're not using, usually when they're saying how ethylene burning is great for power generation, they're not using the gas burning generator. They are using advanced generators, a multi-block structure, I think. So if we look at this kind of stuff, the gas turbine controller, and what else do we need? We're going to need like a fuel air mixer and various things like that. So it's the advanced generators version of burning the ethylene that I think they're doing. So they're using the electrolytic separator and the pressurized reaction chamber, the PRC, to make the ethylene, but then they're feeding the ethylene into an advanced generator with a ton of turbines. So I'll probably end up making a bunch of manual turbines and things like that. So I'm going to take a look at what this stuff all takes. Taking some interpearls, which I don't have a lot of those because I don't have any way to generate them yet. But I could definitely make one of those, no problem. Let's see, I think we want... Let's see, I think we want a mixed compressor was another thing that I saw a picture of. So yeah, this gas mix compressor, that I can make. Yeah. That I can make. Pressure valves I can make. Dynamic valves I can make. So so those two things. I think the multi-block structure I saw a picture of also had, I think, a forge energy emitter, because this emits in Fe. Tin, silver, we can do that. We can do all that. And then I think it also had a gas intake valve. Which we can do all that. Alrighty, so mystery solved. I was having some problems with the math here going, wait a minute, I don't see this gas burning generator for Mekanism doing that much. It's a hell of a lot of work to make a bunch of biofuel, automate that, and put it all through here just to burn ethylene in that gas burning generator, which the math wasn't penciling out as I was playing around with this damn thing. And mystery solved. We want to go to advanced generators, another thing that I'm not only not familiar with, but since there isn't a tree here, I don't think for it. I was completely clueless. So we don't have any like trees or unlocks or anything for advanced generators. So it wasn't even on my radar. But now it is, and it looks doable. So what we're going to do is probably, better grab that before it despawns. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to take a look at generating biofuel. I see potato cloches used a lot. I have no idea what that is or how to do it. So I'm going to investigate that between this episode and the next. I'm going to maybe build some of this stuff. I don't have a lot of Manulin to work with, but I could get it. But we're going to start working on this kind of stuff, this advanced generators things. That looks sort of fun. The other thing is, I noticed that looks like people are basically importing the ethylene gas into the ME system from the PRC and then exporting it into the advanced generator and then connecting it all with ME tubes. So that might be a good option. There are also these, what are they called? Pressurized. The Mekanism pressurized tubes will also pump it. So I can take a look at that. So not only do I need to figure out what I'm doing, but the logistics of how to do it and how to make it all sort of compact and nice, and get it all organized and fit it into my base somewhere. So anyway, not much was accomplished really in this episode, but I learned a ton. Just to recap for myself, the thermodynamics servo and thermodynamics fluid duct let me pull infinite water out of a cooking for blockhead sink. So that was good. And we were able to pump that into the bottoms of the electrolytic separator and the pressurized reaction chamber. Definitely I was confused a bit by the various tabs here. So I'm on the items config tab. There's an energy tab, a fluids tab, and a gases tab, and then injection on and off for all those different tabs. So that and the configurator, shift M to cycle through things, and then here we can see that if I right click this when I'm in configure gases, the dark blue is output, and this was how I got this bad boy to send its gas out this side, to send its ethylene gas out the left side here. So that was a good moment of learning. And besides that, everything else is working here. I got the, just as an example, if I do this and go to items, got eject on, and I'm ejecting items out the top. For gases, I got eject on, and I'm ejecting out the left side. For energy, I've got intake on the back side. For fluids, I've got fluid coming in from the bottom. So I'm starting to sort of get the hang of the Mekanism ones. There's basically, seems like two different types of machines. Maybe they were made in different versions. So some have these tabs on the tanks, for instance, or on the PRC that let you do stuff and control stuff, whereas some, like the electrolytic separator and gas burning generator, don't. So it can be a bit confusing to get this all going, but I'm starting to get the hang of it. Starting to get the hang of some of the piping and etc. options are and what does what. So that's good. Finally realized that when people were talking about using ethylene for fuel, they were not talking about the Mekanism gas burning generator. They were talking about advanced generators, which isn't listed in the book here. And so it might not be on the radar of somebody who is new to all this stuff like me, or relatively new to most of this stuff like me. But the advanced generator looks like a definite option. I think the only problem I'm going to have is making enough manulin turbines. I don't have a ton of ardite or cobalt, but I can figure that out, and maybe I can take my digital miner to the nether and see if I can get it working there. I'll have to take a power source with me because I don't think I have anything that will cross dimensions yet, but maybe I'll play around with that. And I still have to figure out how to generate biofuel, lots of it, fast. But anyway, I think I learned a lot in this episode, even if I didn't accomplish a lot. And so I'm looking forward to next episode, pushing on towards sort of that good mid-level thing that's generating 10 to 20 to 40 to 50,000 RF per tick. That's sort of what I'm aiming for here, is something that will give me in the 20 to 50 RF per tick, 20 to 50,000 RF per tick, just to feel more comfortable moving into the sort of later middle stages of this game with plenty of power and plenty of power storage. And also, I didn't get around to, I got all sidetracked about trying to get more power, so I haven't figured out I haven't made the wireless stuff, so that's still on my radar. Anyway, that's what's going on, and that's probably enough for one episode. So I will be back next time where we play with advanced generators and get our Applied Energistics ME network wireless, so I don't have to keep running over to this terminal. Bye.